Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and many of you might recognize the individual that I have the honor of speaking with today, Mr. Russell Simmons. Many of us know him as a pioneer in hip hop, but I think it's very important to also know him as the multidimensional person that he is. Last year, Russell and I had the opportunity to work together on a campaign on mass incarceration that was incredibly successful. Russell did an amazing job, and I was personally impressed with the way he put his resources behind a cause that was so important for all of us. And so, before I get started, I want to ask Russell, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good.
Good, good. Now, let's start with the incarceration piece. I mean, there's so many things to talk about because you really are a Renaissance man. I mean, I was joking with you before that every time I talk to you, it sounds like you're either getting off the phone, about to get on the phone, running from one meeting to the next. So, and you're extremely active, and you've been this way for a long time. I was really surprised and impressed when I read about your history of working on the incarceration problem, which many of us know that's the new civil rights movement. You did some extraordinary work when it came to, for example, dealing with what's going on at Rikers Island and the Rockefeller drug laws. Can you talk a little bit about your history in that area and the things you've done?
Well, it was I don't know how many years ago that we started our campaign to end the Rockefeller drug laws, and I think you were part of it to some degree, right? And we did do this, um, and we had a lot of artists, music artists. We used their celebrity, Jay-Z, and Puffy, and Run DMC, and Beastie Boys, and Wu-Tang Clan, and a lot of guys came out. Senator Clinton, Senator Patterson, then Patterson, who became governor later, Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Jackson, everyone showed up, and we held a rally, and we had 100,000 people, and it was to wake up people to the fact that the Rockefeller drug laws were unjust and were incarcerating 94.5% people of color under that law. And so there was this as mandatory minimum, which is what the Rockefeller drug law represented, a mandatory minimum. And there were people locked up for 20 years for small amounts of drugs. And it was a horrible situation. It still is a horrible situation on the national level, the mass incarceration of our people. But it was directed at, it was, the result of the work was it affected people of color. And I think that the war on drugs and the mass incarceration in general has been the number one cause of the destruction of the fabric of the black community. Jail culture ensues in our community because we locked up diseased individuals, educated them in criminal behavior, and dumped them back in the hood without opportunity for employment or any kind of gainful reality. And so those people came back and they shared drug culture and created drug culture as a core component of some of our communities.
So, and I think this is important for people to know about. These fights were not easy for you. I mean, they were not just time consuming, but very costly financially. You got a lot of pushback from people, and I'm sure you've had people tell you, "Well, why would you want to help criminals? Right? These are bad people. Why are you helping bad people?" Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of how you've had to kind of overcome, these challenges that you met along the way?
Well, I would be a bad person too. I mean, I just didn't get locked up. Lots of kids, white and black kids, in college, pre-college, use drugs. In fact, lots of adults use drugs that are worse. Some of those drugs are legal, some of those drugs are illegal. But none of those things make people. I don't think that incarceration is a deterrent for people using drugs. For one, I mean, I know that lots of people use drugs to calm their mind. The fluctuations of the mind, the yogis would say, the cause of all suffering. You got two choices: clarity or cloudiness. Most of us don't know all the routes to clarity. It goes to, I don't want to go into the subject of my book, my meditation book, but it's true. People take drugs, and people take drugs doesn't make them bad people. And some people get addicted to drugs; they become diseased, and sometimes addicted or not, they get arrested for having drugs. Black people are ones who are stopped, whether they're stopped and frisked or whether there's task force that chase them down, but they get arrested, they get locked up, and their lives are destroyed, and their families' lives are destroyed. It is really, and I said this, I'm going to repeat it, been the cause of destruction in the fabric of the black community. And when we talk about how bad the community is and how bad the culture is, it all goes back to prison. All of the style, all of the culture, all the language of the prison culture, prison language, and the number of us who get arrested and go to jail and whose lives are ruined over drugs is astounding.
Mm. Well, it's interesting and it's funny. I know that our thoughts are certainly aligned on that in terms of understanding how the culture has been influenced, how the family's been influenced. Now, I want to ask you about hip hop because very few people understand the culture of hip hop the way you do. You're one of the pioneers, and I think that we can both see how the culture of mass incarceration has influenced hip hop. Now, my question is, what are the steps in terms of strengthening and empowering the hip hop community to realize that the culture doesn't have to change you? Maybe there's a way that hip hop can also change the culture, or is that even something
I
to
think,
think about?
well, it's certainly worth discussing in every case. Like I said, all those artists showed up, and they were the reason that 100,000 kids showed up, was the reason that the governor had to take notice and signed a bill, gave me the pen when he signed the bill to change the Rockefeller drug laws. If an artist speaks up, it matters. I remind them all the time. I get them to sign little letters to the governor, to the mayor, to the president. I get them to show up at rallies. But some artists spend more time helping their community than others. I don't feel like anybody owes anybody anything, but for your own relief, what's given to you is something that it's like a football, you got to pass it. And those people who are given, celebrity is a very valuable tool. That's what I found. We had a fundraiser at my house on Saturday. We raised over $2 million for the arts. I have a march tomorrow in Queens, and it's a peacekeepers. We're going to raise an offering and gain a lot of men will join the peacekeepers. All I'm doing is showing up. Captain Dennis Muhammad. We funded, Rush Card funds the program, but Erica Ford and Captain Dennis Muhammad are on the ground. Me showing up, it matters. They're doing the work, but I can at least show up. Artists have the capability to say either Jesus walks or and I may think that a song like Fuck the Police is helpful, but they can say that, or Jesus walks, or they can just say stuff that promotes ignorance. I mean, it's ignorance and they know it. Well, I mean, I understand kids being rebellious for the sake of it. And, and I understand that people say what's on their mind because that's what art is supposed to do. But you have lots of things that go through your mind. You can choose higher vibrations and share them. And artists, who do that live longer, last longer. They give more and get more. And and they want to build a lasting, stable relationship with the community. Then do something that's helpful to the community. And I always tell artists that. I like to work with artists who struggle the most. I feel like I have a better influence on them. I've always liked to work with artists. Sometimes artists that people think are destructive. Because sometimes you can just shift them just a little. And the difference between what they were saying and what they will say can change whole communities. And I want to go back to some of the biggest stars, when they say something now and then that matters, I'm in Cuba, I like Cubans. Whatever the lines are the rappers have, they make all the difference in the world. It's sad, the letter that we wrote, that you mostly authored, we authored together, to the Attorney General. We got signed by the NAACP, the Urban League, Reverend Jackson, Reverend Sharpton, bunch of rabbis, bunch of imams, bunch of great Christian preachers that we know. We got it signed by great leaders like Harry Belafonte. We got it signed by, other people who are leaders in the subject, like Brad Pitt. We got it signed by celebrities who just have big voices like Kim Kardashian. But then finally, I don't know if you realize it, when Justin Bieber, who was a little bit less in trouble than he is now, when he tweeted it out, the Attorney General called us. Wow. We got a call from the Attorney General the day that Justin, because the idea was going pop. We were writing a letter about something so obviously hurtful to our community. And as it gets out into the public, people say that's not right. So it had to get out of the political box it was in and into the mainstream. Justin Bieber's tweet was as instrumental as anything in getting the Attorney General to make the shift that he made, after our letter when he started it. So it's crazy how powerful they can be when directed properly. So all we can do is nudge them as much as possible, and pray that they see something good in their or valuable in their celebrity for others, not for themselves only.
Well, I do remember that. I remember when Justin tweeted it, which I was so appreciative of him doing that, and it was like an earthquake on social media. This kid's power is so amazing, and what I really liked about the initiative, and I was very impressed. I just say this on air. I was extremely impressed by the amount of work you put into this. I mean, I've actually found you to be probably one of the more sincere celebrity types that I've met, and I say the term celebrity type only for lack of a better phrase, because I think you're far more complex than that. But just to give people an idea of some of the names on the list, it was pretty diverse. I mean, you had Benjamin Jealous, the head of the NAACP, Jesse Jackson, Julian Bond, Mark Morial. But then on the other side of the entertainment, you had names like Lala Anthony, Jim Carrey, Cedric the Entertainer, Will Smith, Jamie Foxx, etc. And I thought you did a great job of. I know personally, I was very educated in terms of not just understanding the issue, but actually how to make something evolve on the issue. I'm not so much of a political guy, but you understood the politics and you brought that to the fore, and I actually learned a lot from you. And what I noticed also is that there are a lot of people that learn from you. It seems that your position in the industry as well as in society has been one where younger people look to you to learn how to conduct themselves in a way that achieves that higher level of enlightenment. Is that? I mean, do you still have that kind of relationship with entertainers and artists, or how does that kind of work for you?
Well, I've been around a long time. When you get older, you can't help but learn some things. I mean, like I'm always excited to see young artists look to me for guidance, because sometimes I have ideas for them that are helpful. Rick Ross was at my house Saturday. He performed for me and for the Art Foundation last year. But this year he came back and he had some sponsors who bought a $25,000 table, and he came just to support. Also made a donation. To see Rick Ross make a donation and support of the arts underwriting programs for kids in underserved communities, that matters to me, and it also is a leadership role, him taking it by example. When you see them do it by example, it's great. I try to stay, I don't know how I backed my way back in the music business, but All Def Digital now has a music arm. And so I'm working more with the artists in not only in their social and political posturing or promotions or support systems, but I'm back in music. So I see these guys all the time. I go where they go. I try to stay current, and I try to be available to them when they need me. I'm going to march tomorrow. I mean, we'll have probably Salt and Pepper and some of the people who are older from the community. We're starting in Baisley Projects tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And marching with the Peacekeepers, the program that I told you that we're funding with Rushcard. And we're going to fund probably 16 programs around the country. So it's something, when you get artists involved, it matters, it makes all the difference. When they show up, then the community shows up. It's kind of, I know you and when you think about it, it must really disturb you to know that we get a letter signed by a person like Harry Belafonte, who loves and does our community so much and does so much work for it. And we got to depend on Kanye to tweet or Kim Kardashian to tweet the thing out. It's our reality. We're grateful when they do it, but it's got to sound. It sounds a little mind-boggling to us who really love our community. People who are thoughtful about our community and are involved and they care deeply about it are less powerful than some people who are not as thoughtful or not as engaged at this point. They're younger. They just don't see their role as leaders, but they can help. And when they help, it's powerful.
Well, I agree with you. And I want to ask you one last question. You and I were talking about your daughter right before the conversation, and it was interesting how you mentioned that your daughter isn't as impressed with everything that happened the 30 years before she was born in terms of your role in hip hop. She's paying more attention to the things you're doing now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was an article yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, and it said how all the celebrity cards were gone. That Magic had exited, that the Kim Kardashian card never really took off, that the Cash Money Crew card never took off, that Susie Orman's card had failed. And they said that I was the last survivor. And I talked to the journalist for so long before that, and she was smart because she's the same woman who saw 8 years ago that there was a thriving or potential for a thriving business in what we were doing. Maybe it's 6 years ago, because my company's 11 years old. And she wrote about it in a positive way. Chase Manhattan, Walmart, Green Dot, all these people are in business. They're my competitors. I have to be better than competitive with them, or die. Which which is okay. I love that. I learn from them. They learn from me. They learn more from me than I learn from them. But I'm not a celebrity who endorsed a card. I'm a person who started an industry. I funded a company that took all the risks, had all the experience. I remember when Tom Joyner talked about the rush card for people who didn't have bank accounts, because it wasn't for people who could absolutely not get bank accounts. Is how we created it. But then we discovered it was cheaper than banks for many, many people. But Tom Joyner tweeted out, or not tweeted it, spoke about it on his radio show and crashed our system. When that happened, it was an experience. It was a learning experience. It cost a lot of money. But there was no competitors. There was no one. There was no Chase, no Walmart, no anyone. So when the journalist refers to me as a celebrity, the celebrity survivor, when in fact I was the founder and one of the pioneers, along with my partner, we pioneered the business. We funded it, we took the risk, we learned, and after 5 years we became profitable. So it bothered me that my daughter is not going to read. I know I'm not like, it's not like I invented the light bulb like some black guy did. It's not like I invented, the watch like, they said Benjamin Banneker. Not like that, but I don't want it to be documented that, Walmart started this financial service industry, because I did. And I wanted my daughter, who wants to be a banker, she wants to go to Switzerland right now. She's 11. She's going to 8th grade. She'll be 12. She's 11. She's going to the 8th grade. And she wants to ship herself off to some boarding school in Switzerland, because her stepfather's a banker, and she's inspired by that, and she wants to be a money girl. I said, well, Daddy's in the money business too. And Daddy founded an important financial service industry. And not only that Daddy did rap, because she's not interested in the rap that I did. That's just rap to her. She's interested in, it's true. So Ming Lee is more interested in the fact that Iggy Azalea is on the label I founded, and Iggy Azalea was at my house. That's a big deal of Ming Lee. But a Yoki Lee could care less. And a lot of black children could care less. We wish more black children could care less about me founding Def Jam and more about me founding a financial service industry. So I'm today's blog. I wrote the blog today because I was, wanted my daughter to read it. Well, she thinks I'm a poor writer, she told me.
Well, I love that. I love the fact that your daughter's educated enough to criticize your writing, right? And I also am glad that there are other men out there whose kids are as unimpressed with them as mine are. My kids, in the eyes of my kids, I haven't accomplished anything, so I totally understand. Well, I know you got stuff to do, man, and I'm really glad we got a chance to catch up and talk about this stuff. And and I just want to end this by saying that I was truly impressed with the way you conducted yourself on the incarceration campaign. I think that there are hundreds of thousands of people whose lives will be made better because of the great work you did, and I want to say thank you publicly on the air.
Well, thank you so much for everything you've done too, and thank you for the work you continue to do.
Vice versa. All right. Well, everybody, this is Mr. Russell Simmons. You you might know who he is. He's a great guy, and you should look him up. Go read his article on Huffington Post today, and also check out some of the other work that he's done. And I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.